Hello, hello, hello. We are back. It is the wave. I got the t-shirt on today. I'm repping. Dave's here from Simply Subarus. He's
It's
also
boost
repping
season.
boost season. And man, lots of stuff going on. I have to say, since our last episode, the most incredible thing I've ever been through. I saw my son be born, and absolutely insane, dude. I drove to work, and we knew it was like any day. The due date was November 3rd, but like based on how we were tracking everything, it should have been around the 23rd, kind of. And so, we were like, maybe we're wrong, maybe the doctors are right or whatever. And then all of a sudden I get to work, it's 7 a.m. and my wife calls me and she's like, it's time. I'm like, okay. So I literally unlocked the door and I told my coworker, I was like, I'm out of here. I was like, I'll see you later. And picked her up. We got Starbucks on the way, and nothing kicked off for like 24 hours. I mean, my son was born the next day at 7:04. So like really like the whole process, I've never been through childbirth, but man, what an experience. It was really something. So,
Well, congratulations, man.
thanks, man. Another Subaru fan has been born. So
Yes.
he will definitely be sponsoring the podcast. No. So,
Yes. We'll be sure to send him a bunch of Subaru swag as he grows up. There's a lot of cool things that Subaru makes that are for toddlers and kids as they mature. So we'll make sure to keep him branded throughout.
Yeah, and what's funny is his name is Sawyer. My last name is S as well, and his middle name is S. So, for true Subaru fashion, his whole name starts with S's. So, speaking of Subaru, and what's been going on while I was in the hospital and had all this nonsense happening. I mean, dude, this Tokyo Auto Show, I was reading about it. I knew what was coming. You and I both knew there was an STI coming back. It was just inevitable. And what was so crazy out of everything that went on with this is that you and I called it. I'm just
the
McRib.
It's back every year.
Yeah. I'm just going to put on the screen here a clip from our B11S episode. And this is the rendering of what we thought the next STI was going to be if Subaru made another wagon. And as you can see, it's very close. We were almost on the money. With the wing, too. Dude, it's got the wing. It's got the cross-track body. Dude, this is it. I mean, outside of the wheels and the calipers and stuff, like, dude, we nailed it. This is like legit. Like, look, this. Let me see if I can find the same angle. Right, so that's our rendition, bro.
I mean,
you can't tell me that we're not on the money.
Even the way the back slant down is for the back window, it's pretty freaking close,
dude. I'm literally like, when I first saw this picture, this just blew my mind because I was like, we called this. This was something that we knew was coming. Dave, I want to hear from you first. What is your take on it? What did you take away from both cars, and what do you think?
So my initial take was pretty much your same, initial 10-second first thought was like, man, we almost called it. Like we were pretty damn close. That kind of brings me to a post I saw earlier today. They say it along the lines of, well, everyone, wanted, the next STI to guaranteed have a 6-speed. Well, it looks like it's going to have that. Everyone wanted one with over 300 horsepower. Looks like it's going to have that. Everyone wanted the return of the hatchback. Looks like they're listening. But everyone's response is going to be, "Ew, not like that though." You
But you know
know?
what? The to counter that, the most positive thing that heard online was that this is a Crosstrek body.
Mhm.
This looks like a production ready vehicle. And
Agreed.
and so that's what people were the most hyped about, was that this is something that, you know, I don't think anybody really cares what it looks like, because it looks close enough to what we got, and people know the body, and so it's not this totally
Mhm.
weird concept. I think that people were comfortable with the fact of like, I'll take it. You know, it's one of those,
Yeah.
if they're gonna make a new Boxer and an STI body, and it's gonna have all these cool features, we'll take it. We'll take anything we can get, because there is no STI right now, you know?
Yeah, and I think that's how it should be. I mean, you look at the electric, the E version um, of the STI, and I think that's interesting because I think that's where they let the kind of designers have free range and kind of design something, outside of the box and do more with it than what it is. And I think the original the poster that I'm referencing mentioned very poignantly well. He said that, well, everyone hated the VB when it came out. They're like, ugh, and now people love them. I think
Yeah.
so. It's subjective, and I think I've seen a lot of memes. We even made a post about it earlier this week about um, the weird kind of look of the EV version. But I credit Subaru for doing something unique and outside of the box. They again, I think that's where they let the engineers kind of do something wild. When it came to, I agree with you that the gas version looks very almost production ready to a point. They would have put some extra frills and things like that here and there in the body a little bit, but you're right. It's very close to production, and I would agree that they can build this. And I think the end of the day, we need to be supportive versus criticizing to a certain point. I mean, I get it. We all have our opinions to say the least, but if your opinions are provocated on other people's opinions, then maybe they're not your opinions.
Yeah. Yeah, and something that I took away from this, there's a couple things, is that, one, the STI is back. People have wanted it, and I think that this really sets the tone. And I think that Subaru showing up to Boxer Fest with the yellow bodies for the WRX and the ST, or the BRZ,
Hmm.
that kinda showed that they're invested. They're invested in performance. They're there with 2 performance vehicles in new colors. They're trying to impress, and I think that it's not just, "Hey, we brought the Uncharted. Hey, we brought the Solera. We want everybody to check out these cars that we brought that are electric that nobody asked for." You know, I think that it's, like, cool because people wanna get in them and they wanna feel them out, and, like, a lot of the off-road people like that, but that's not their whole audience. And I think that
Hmm.
they proved that they knew that by bringing these cars and showing them off and doing donuts in them and like giving people what they want. And I think
Well,
that
and the fact that Subaru is still in motorsport, I think that really is a testament to their dedication to something because motorsport, it's subjective. They say, win on fucking Sunday, sell on Monday, but that's not always the case. You know what I mean? And so if that was the case, Subaru would be, selling a lot more cars and a lot bigger company, in my opinion, if it was just based on their wins, you know?
yeah. I think what's interesting too is that you look at a company like Toyota, and Toyota had the Yaris, they did the Corolla. They're pumping out hatchbacks and they're doing really well. And I think that Subaru, because they were in this joint partnership with the BRZ 86 situation, I think that they were closely watching how popular these wagons were that they were coming out with and selling. And I think that they're realizing like, hey, there is a market in wagons. People liked them when we put them out the first time. Maybe this is something we try again. And it's really hot right now. That's the trend. Everybody's getting in a small, compact, wagon kind of car, the hatchbacks and stuff like that. So,
Hot
um,
hatches.
yeah, so, like, that's the thing is, like, and nobody can get a Focus anymore. You can't get an RS, you can't get an ST, they don't
Hmm.
exist. Like, a
Hmm.
lot of these other companies with their hatches have gone away, you know? I'm not gonna fully include this, but the Volvo C30 no longer exists. That's another small hatchback that people really liked, you know?
Just have to say, side note, I always love those. As an
I like
enthusiast,
them
I
too.
love those
I
Volvos. I
I
love
think they're
those.
cool, but that's the thing, and, like and then you have Honda, with the Civics and stuff that got away
Yeah.
from hatches altogether. They tried to make Civic R the Civic Type R a little bit of a
Yeah.
wagon style, but it's
It was
still
weird.
yeah,
It was too weird.
yeah,
I
and
just have to
that's
ask everyone, let us know down in the comments if you like the Volvos.
yeah, C30s, they slap.
Yes.
I always
Yes.
wanted an S60R. I
Ooh.
I mean, I just always thought it's almost 300 horsepower, it's all-wheel drive, it's got the Brembos, it's a 5-cylinder, so, like, it's I was like, "It's basically an STI," like,
Volvo used to race. Volvo used to race.
Yeah,
For anyone who doesn't know, look at the lineage. Volvo used to race. There's a reason why they had an R badge on some of their models because
yeah,
Volvo used to actually race
yeah,
competitively.
yeah, and that's the thing is you have these other companies that have tried things. They have gone out of their way to attempt to experiment, and I think that Subaru is showing that they're willing to do that. They're not just settling
Mhm.
in like, dude, you look this always brings me back to Mitsubishi. Mitsubishi knows how to kill a brand. I can't tell you how many Mitsubishi dealers I know of because there's one. And surprisingly, they just opened, which is like, I didn't even think Mitsubishi was still around, you
Wow.
know, because that's what's so crazy about it. They went from making cool stuff and trying different things and getting this loyal fan base together, and they threw it all out the window to make an Outlander. Like, there's just there's no I don't know, they were trying to appease same thing. They were trying to appease to everybody, and they knew that
Well,
the Evo community was a small niche group, and so instead they were like, "What if we make an Outlander, and what if we put Rockford Fosgate audio in it? And that'll make it cool,
yeah.
and then people will
But
buy them."
there's something to be said about the allure, I feel like, for a company that and I can relate to this in some capacity. Um, initially a lot of visionaries and passionate individuals start something because of a passion, and a vision, not to sound redundant, but they really have a dream and they want to, see if they can turn that into a business. And while they may turn that into some capacity of a business, sure, I think there's a certain allure when you look at the giants, if you will. So even for me as a small independent shop, man, what if I was a Firestone or a Goodyear and I had a franchise and I just sat back as a CEO and I made $21 million a year and I just licensed out the name of Simply Subarus. I had a whole formulation and I had a Simply Subarus and 5 of them in every state. That'd be grand, to some capacity, right? Like who wouldn't want $21 million a year for their annual salary? And I think that companies, big or small, are always kind of trying to navigate that. And so from a company like Toyota, who is substantially bigger than Subaru, I don't think anyone can question that. They're looking at it going, you know what? We've gotten so big. We're just selling Corollas and Tacomas and all these things. And not saying they're bad, but they're just, very, one size fit all to a point. And maybe we've lost our way a little bit. Maybe we want to work with the company like Subaru, who really seems to have a passion with motorsport and just doesn't mind losing money effectively to a point because they're passionate about something. And
Well,
conversely, Subaru looks at Toyota and goes, well, you know what? Maybe we want to learn from you and go, how can we become bigger and better and sell more cars and grow our company? Maybe not to the likes of you, but
to that point too, I mean, something that you and I have talked about is that how can Subaru grow if they don't make a luxury brand? You know, like, how can they keep competing with themselves? Look at this car. Let me put this thing back on screen because it's actually insane to me. Dude, look at this thing. Does this look like an electric car that you would expect Honda to put out? Or do you think this is an electric car you would expect Acura to put out? You know, is this
Hmm.
more of a Lexus than a Toyota? You know, like my whole
But to
thought
that point,
process.
you have to have a company like Toyota or a Honda to be able to support a Lexus or an Acura. And humbly, I don't know the answer to this, but I would bet money that Honda is making a lot more money than Acura is and has been. And same thing with Toyota and Lexus. And it's kind of, I guess, that same kind of point. It's almost their internal passion project. And they sell to a niche clientele. They sell less of them. But at the end of the day, their bread and butter. And they know that Lexus will never go out of business because it has Toyota to fall back on. And at the end of the day, most of the Lexuses are, and same thing with Acuras, they're rebranded and rebadged Toyotas and Hondas. And they're just higher trim levels that you could ever get with a Honda or a Toyota with a little bit maybe different body style. But at the end of the day, the suspension's still the same, the engine's still the same.
But does this make sense, right? Isn't there more money to be made in luxury? You're paying more for the name brand, right? There's no way to make more money than just to sell people something for more money that is just a bigger name brand. It's just something that it carries value in the name alone. And so what's interesting with that is that you see a car like this, right? Subaru can't charge $100,000 for a car, because they like 2 years ago they were like MSRP on an Impreza base model was $18,000. So how can you have one brand that has luxury $100,000 cars and $20,000 cars? You really
Sure.
can't. And the problem is that it doesn't allow them to spend the money that they need to make these cars what they should be. And so that's why STI keeps failing, is because they keep bringing it back and they're making these cars, but they're trying to make them cheap so that the community can afford them. But that's what the WRX has always been meant to be. The
That's a
WRX
good
was
point.
they should take, right? They should put let me just I'm like
But
all
then
over
is
the
a
place now.
STI now the bottom tier of their luxury brand, or is that the top tier?
This car right here should be, let's say, if this is the STI, and let's just say hypothetically, right? This is how it comes. This is what it looks like. This is the new STI they're coming out with. That car should be so jam-packed with so much cool shit that this car should be upwards of 40, 50, even a little bit over $50,000.
Sure, $50,000, give us 400 horsepower. Okay.
And that's what I'm saying. And
But
then
then
it
you
should
look at
be
that price point of $50,000 and you could buy a BMW that makes 700.
exactly. And the problem is that's who they should be competing with is BMW. That's what they should be making the STIs for, is to compete with these other cars at
I
this
disagree
level.
because the problem is you look at again, I always say there's levels to that. There's a reason why Bentley and Rolls Royce can charge millions of dollars for their cars. It's because they only make 12 of them and they're bespoke. It's not because they're built well. I'll be the first to tell you, I've worked on a Bentley. Pardon my French when I say they're pieces of shit. I'm sorry, anyone who's listening and following our podcast. Sorry if we lost a follower, but Bentleys are pieces of shit. They're absolutely built like garbage.
Now,
And you're like,
I'm
well, wait,
not
they only build 12 a year. They should build them like better than Ferrari. Ferraris aren't even any better. They're not that much better. I'd rather take a Honda or rather an Acura product because it's derived from a Honda that's more reliable, consistent. Everyone's going to be perfect when they leave the factory showroom floor compared to these luxury brands that are bespoke. They're not engineered. They're just kind of handcrafted. That's the captcha. That's the difference. Handcrafted means, well, you don't matter if you have to bring your car in, every 1,000 miles for a weird electrical problem that we created, because you're worth millions of dollars. You just want $1 million car. You don't care. And that's why famously, I know these cars for a fact, these cars never see 20,000 miles. Mark my words. There's never a Bentley, a Rolls Royce, a Ferrari with 20,000 miles out there still running without billions of dollars being put into them to keep them running.
Now,
It's not
see
sustainable.
my argument is not with the Bentleys and the Rolls Royces and those kind of cars. My point is, have you ever been in a Lexus that is actually a Toyota?
Yeah, they're
Ex-
mostly Toyotas. I mean, they're
and
derived from
and
that same
and
heart.
that's what I'm saying is this has been the gimmick forever, right? You take a car brand and you say, what if we made the same car, but we just made it look different and we added some electronics
Napa
inside?
leather. We'll put a big touch screen in there. We'll put massaging, heated and cooled seats. Heated and cooled steering wheel. We'll blow air conditioned air through air vents in your steering wheel so your hands don't get hot.
But this is the thing. Where do you think
But it's a
all of
Camry.
the upgraded electronics are made? You know, they probably get the best deal around on these parts because they're over there. You know, if you're going to make Subaru in Japan, they probably have access to the cheapest way to get the biggest touchscreen possible. You probably have connections to make the electronics on the interior better for cheaper. And so
Sure.
if they took this car and they said, if we're going to sell this thing for $50,000, right? This has to be a luxury vehicle, or it has to meet the exact purpose that we're making it for. It needs to come out of the factory looking like this picture. It's not going to be, oh, we're having it come out of the factory on some basic rims. You know, the Brembos are an upgraded, option. Like
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna totally just, knock this thing down to make it 30 grand, and then you got to spend all this money to add all these parts on or whatever. Like this thing needs to come out and be like, this is our Acura
Yeah.
Integra, like the new
Here's
one.
two. he-
Like,
Here's a good example. Here's two car brands that are very polar opposite: Porsche and Dodge.
yeah,
Porsche came out with the GT3 RS, and that car comes from the factory with no carpets, factory installed roll cage. It's a track car. Okay. The Dodge Demon is technically a drag strip car, but still insanely fast. If you want to buy your carpets back for your Porsche because you want to take people out in it, and it's more of a showpiece than you're really going to track it, which most people do, you have to buy your carpet back. I looked this up. I may be wrong on the numbers, but based on my research, it's only $2,800, $2,800, cheap. But you have to pay for professional install. That's going to cost you $8,000 because I have to pull the whole interior, roll cage, everything, one seat. You have to pay extra for the passenger seat. Dodge, however, with the Demon, tried to sell a track car, or sorry, a drag strip car. They did. Ironically, there's no interior in that car. Technically, no passenger seat, no carpets, no back seats, nothing. You can buy your interior back from Dodge when you buy the car, you order the car. Guess how much it costs?
no idea.
$1.
Yeah.
Two very different approaches to the same kind of philosophy. We're going to sell you a purpose-built car. Dodge decided we're not going to beat you over the head to buy the rest of the car. We're just, and you do the math, they're really, it's a joke kind of thing, but it just goes to show you it's an exemplary point that Dodge was making, I think, in trying to say that, yep, you can buy your interior back for $1. They built them with the full interiors.
Yeah.
Most people were going to buy them like that.
Yeah.
But they built a few without interiors for those few enthusiasts. They could say, here you go. Here's your car.
Yeah. And I think that this is where too, like I start to question what the mission statement is. I start to question
Hmm.
what the purpose is, because the STI has always been a trim, right? It's an extra trim to the Impreza, to the WRX. It's the highest possible trim. But I'm almost at the point where I'm like, this should just be a different car. It should be the same, but it shouldn't be a trim. It should be, if you're getting a WRX, right? You're getting a Camry. If you're getting an STI or whatever flip flop, you're getting if you're getting an STI, you're getting a Corolla. Like I feel like the STI itself is an important build, and I think for them to put the right amount of money and attention into building it, and for it to be a solid car, they just can't be tied down to the price tag that people are expecting these cars to be at. Let the WRX be the $30,000 car. Just rip down the STI, take off the carbon wing, take off the wheels, because people will modify it. That'll be the modifying car. But if you're gonna buy an STI, that thing should come ready to hit the track, like
But
expecting
what
that.
happens? What happens when someone buys a WRX and they spend $5,000 and they're now faster than an STI for $5,000, and an STI was $20,000 more? What happens?
But again,
So you have to outreach that.
that's where it should be a different car. It shouldn't make as much power. Think about the originals, right? The Bug Eye made 223, I think, factory, and the STI made 300. That's a pretty wide gap, and you got to spend some good money to get that WRX to hit 300. I think that now these WRXs are like 278 or whatever, and the STIs are at like 300. That's a very close gap. Very easy to hit 300 horsepower in a WRX. I think that it's not so much that the WRX should be a slower car, but I think that it should just be purpose built to be like, hey, this is more of a bare bones, cheaper edition of this STI. This is one that you can build on. You're still going to get maybe the same power or close to it, but the main deal is that the STI is coming with more features track driven, right? Maybe the
Here's a thought:
suspension's
what if
upgraded.
the WRX was a Miata and the STI was a Corvette? Is kind of, I guess, a philosophy, the thought.
Yeah. I mean, that's the okay. In my mind, right, the Miata is the BRZ. Like, that is their slow, just track purpose car.
Okay, sorry.
The In my eyes, right, if you're taking the Corvette, right,
WRX is like
the
an
the
S4, an S4
the WRX to
Maui.
me is more like a Camaro, right? The base model Camaros make 300 horsepower. There's still people that like that. They still want to buy what looks like a Camaro but makes 300 horsepower. But if you want to buy a Camaro SS and make 600 horsepower, you could do that. That exists. I think that if you want to go buy a Corvette and make 450 horsepower and have it be like a sports car, that you could do that too. I think that where we're losing the focus is that, like, the Impreza has evolved. It's evolved over time. It's not the same like toy car that it was. And there's people
Yeah.
like us who have grown up that no longer want to be in a like a very thin plastic, you know, all the sound coming in kind of vehicle, because we're just at the point in our lives where we want more of like something that's a little bit, I don't know. I feel like
Here's an interesting thought for you. As we've talked about a lot, and obviously everyone knows, Subaru is engaged in motorsport and rally. Do they rally the WRX or do they want to rally an STI? In theory, you say they would want to rally an STI because it's, brand recognition, sell, a more premium model, right? To that point, though, what happens, or what's just common for any motorsport, is there's regulations. So for Subaru just to say, you know what? And I heard a comment. I saw one of the person's comment about like the new SUI. Why don't they just make it a 3.6 twin turbo, 580 horsepower already? I mean, I'd love that. Don't get me wrong,
yeah,
but they would have to now rip everything out of that fucking car to actually put that in fucking rally and actually go racing professionally.
yeah.
So maybe a 2-liter is part of their stick and bread. Maybe some of these engine displacements are very much in line with Subaru's motorsports pedigree. So for them to design something that's a 8-cylinder V8 is kind of unridiculous, unheard of, because
Well,
what are they going to use that for?
hear me out. What if the WRX is a WRX? What if that WRX becomes the STI, right? What if the
Good point.
WRX, what if the WRX is an STI? It's a 300 horsepower, comes with the Brembos, comes with the wing, right? The STI is now, there is no WRX. STI is a WRX, right? The,
Okay, I
S,
see what you're saying. Yeah,
the
moving up,
STI, yeah.
way up.
And the STI that they are coming out with now, what if it's a flat six turbo? What if it's a flat six twin turbo? What if it's a flat six twin scroll? What if they
That would be
what
cool as hell.
what if they just push everything up, right? Why
Give
are
me a
we
3.6 twin turbo. Let's go.
yeah, sell the WRX as an STI in the 30 to 40 range where those cars have been selling anyway, right?
Yeah.
This is the thing that Ford learned. When Ford cut all their cars out of their lineup, they said people are already going to buy a Ford. So why are we giving them 100 options? We don't have to please everybody. We're going to offer 5 cars. We're going to offer 5 models, and people can either buy a Mustang, an Explorer, an Escape, or they can buy, one of the other two, an F-150, right? Like, they're like, we don't have to make the Edge. We don't have to make the Focus. We don't have to
Mhm.
make all these other cars, the Fusion. Just get rid of them. People are going to buy cars from us either way. And so I think that where Subaru is at is like, why are we making all these different models to try to please everybody? Just make the WRX and STI, and then make whatever new STI concepts you're coming out with, make them more performance based, or make them more luxury based, or make them get at
Yeah,
a price point.
that's a good point. I get behind that more from a directive, but like you see my point. It's like you have to make certain concessions. If you're going to be
Yeah.
involved in motorsport. So to that my point, you kind of can't. Again, I don't know the current restrictions on different classes of rally offhand, but I'm sure there's a leader restriction because I know there's guys not able to run 5-liter V8s in rally.
Well,
Like they just don't let you do that,
here's
and quad turbos.
my, my thought process is, right, you would use the STI for racing. That's what you would go with as your race car. But the STI, right, the high end model would be the same as the WRX body, or similar, with just, a body kit or something that people can buy if they want to make their WRX into an STI, right? Something that people, so that way, right, you're racing the high-end vehicle, the track car, and everybody's aspiring to this vehicle. And if you buy a WRX, right, it's the same thing it's always been. It looks like an STI. It's got a smaller wing, or it's got different wheels and different brakes, but you can upgrade those things and make yourself a WRX that looks like an STI. And I think that that's the same concept, is that you're not going to make it so
Mm-hmm.
different that it's unrecognizable from the WRX. You're gonna make this track focused STI version, this $50,000, sports car. You're gonna make it a version of the WRX that people can turn their car into if they get the right parts. They can make their car look like that, but it's not going to have a flat six. It's not going to have the turbo, that the flat six has. It'll be a different model. Maybe the WRX goes back to being a 5-speed, and the STI is the only one with the 6-speed and the DC-CD controller and all of these features that people want. But if you want to drive that car, you can get a WRX. And guess what? Now they make 300 horsepower with a wing, and everybody's happy, because everybody who couldn't afford an STI and had to get a WRX, now that's the only option. And because of that, right, maybe that'll bring the price down of what an STI is, and maybe this new car will pull the price up on that and kind of meet the difference. So,
Mm-hmm.
anyways, all of this to say, I just wish this is what everybody wanted, but I wanted a little bit more. And
Yeah.
I think that the STI, right? Again, I'm gonna just flash back to the screen here. Um, I think that this is an amazing car. I think they did a great job. I
I
think that
agree.
I think that taking the Crosstrek body was not my favorite idea. I kinda wanted to see them do
But it
their own.
works to that last point you just made. Like, make it kind of configurable.
I agree, it does work, and I think that when you look at the pictures of this car and you see what they've done, it gives me the Veloster feel, and
Yeah, a
I
little bit.
feel and what sucks is that the Veloster, I feel, didn't do very well. Like, people liked them, but they weren't, like, seen as, like, a competitive sports car. Um, the rally versions.
Hyundai's struggled to break into that always. I mean, they've never really done it, even with the Genesis, and those were really fast, and they
Yeah,
didn't really sell a lot. It's a Hyundai. At the end of the day, you're going to show up at the car meet, pop your hood, and everyone's like, "It's a Hyundai. Shut your hood."
yeah. I think what they did really right is that this right here, this picture reminds me of
I
the
like the
14
wide body.
STI.
Yeah,
This is the throwback that people have wanted to the STI they remember. I don't love the roundedness of the hood and the front bumper. I kind of wish that it they
mm,
I kind of wish
slanted
that
it
they
more.
I kind of wish they did a little bit more of that 2014 STI front end. And hey, this is a concept. They might still do it. But I think that
Problem is, I think there's a lot of also government regulation that people often overlook that happens when it comes to how you can build a car and shape the front of the car.
yeah.
Ultimately, one of the number one objectives for governments right now when it comes to approving a car design for DOT approval is whether or not it hits a certain pedestrian impact safety rating,
Mm,
which is kind of insane with all due respect. Just saying.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not condoning hitting pedestrians in your car. I'm just saying at a certain point, it's a moot point. If you hit somebody at 50 miles an hour in a car, I don't really care if the car is shaped like, you know, a DeLorean or shaped like a F-150. I mean, neither one's going to be good for you if you're 50 miles an hour. Just
Yeah.
saying.
Now, something that I did catch was that people were talking about the 6-speed and the DCCD setup in the car. Now,
Yes.
what is that what you were expecting? Were you hoping that they brought that stuff back? Like, what's your take on that?
I would assume they'd bring that stuff back. I mean, I think there's a lot of benefit in something like that that gives the driver, or rather the spirited enthusiast driver, more sense of control.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, there's a reason why we put coilovers on. And if you had an option between 12 different adjustment settings for dampening and 22, which one are you going to buy? Well, 22, it's better,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Has more options, which subjectively, all might be just the same. You might be able to fine tune it just the same and get it to, exactly where you want it. But you feel like with 22, you have more options.
Yeah.
So you're going to get the 22.
I think that this is a clear sign that they are listening because they didn't have to bring these things back,
Agreed.
but I think that they know that if they didn't offer a manual and if they didn't bring back the DCCD system, that people were gonna complain because it's beloved. People want
Agreed.
it. Um,
You put
you
an
know,
automatic in here, people would have been outraged.
yeah. Something else that's crazy to me that I did not see coming, this one threw me for a loop, was the seats.
Yeah.
Carbon fiber buckets with the cushions on them.
I think
I
that's just
did
concept. I
I
don't
think
see
so
them
too.
production that. They're never going to production that.
But why would
Unless, like
they
you said, they make it a luxury brand. But at which
this
point, 400 horsepower is kind of moot for. I mean, this thing with if you're going to put carbon fiber seats, it needs to be almost making hypercar status or
Well,
supercar status power, 800, horsepower or more.
so back to my original point. This is where I get confused, right? You have a car, right? Doesn't necessarily have a racing steering wheel. It's got the biggest screen possible for the dash. This
Yep.
looks, if in this picture, right? Doesn't this look like a daily driver?
A little bit. Looks like, honestly, to me, I'm just going to say it looks like they kind of slapped it together with some of the parts they already had and try to do some new things. And they kind
But
of
like
were like
when I'm
either out of time or out of budget.
when I'm looking at this
Just saying.
picture, right? I can envision the inside of my 19WX. Like this is very close dash wise with the
Exactly.
if you had leather seats or cloth seats in the car, right? This is how the car looks on the inside generally. But then you look at this and you go, is this a race car? And that's where I keep getting
I think
confused
that's
on like
concept.
I get that it's concept, but my point is they have STI leather seats, right? It's not outside of the realm of possibility for them to do that. And I think that this is such a weird thing because even in concept, why are you giving people the thought process of carbon fiber bucket seats if that's not even on the table? You know what I mean? I feel like,
But he's
and
doing it all the time, though, man. They do it all the time.
yeah, I guess it's to give them the sporty look and get the sporty people excited, I
Look
guess.
at what we could do and blah, blah, blah. Maybe this will be an option, yeah. Get the, people excited.
Well, I mean, dude, there's
They're
cars
never
out
going to
there.
make that. They're never going to make that.
That would be so
They
cool if
made
they
two of
did.
those seats. That's the only two, I guarantee you. They're never going to make those.
Dude, an old boss of mine, when I worked at Ford Performance, they were doing all the tuning for the Saline S7s, and he took the carbon fiber seats out of the Saline. They gave them to him, and he put them in his '07 Mustang GT that he used to race, and they looked just like this. They were super sick, and I just thought that was the coolest thing ever because to be able to get seats like this that are factory and put them in your car and drive in them is just amazing. Um,
I mean, at a certain point, just hit Johnny up.
yeah,
He'll get you a carbon fiber seat, which is
yeah,
actually comfortable. We both sat in. It was actually not that bad.
yeah. But like, you see what I mean? Like this steering wheel, I mean, this just looks like a
Same.
daily driver. It's got all the buttons on it. It's got the round, center. It's barely got grip to it. It doesn't look like a racing wheel. It just looks like a daily driver. It's just kind of
But from a
like,
balance standpoint, I think that gives you that kind of hope of like, okay, they could almost build this. I think that's where people are looking at parts and going, you know what? Maybe beside a body and some other things like that they have to build, they could build this right now.
what
Obviously
I
built one.
and again, I agree with that.
They have the stamping presses. They have the machines to do it.
I think the benefit is it's possible. I think that's the big highlight is that it wouldn't take much for them to do this. And I think that if they do finally get to the point that they do it and they make it happen and they're like, "You know what? Let's go for it." I really hope that they make the right changes from concept to production because this is what all these companies are known for. They put something together like this and they make everybody look at this, "Whoa, look at what's possible."
They
And then they
tease
come
you.
out and then they drop the ugliest thing you've ever seen in your life and you're like, "How did this happen?" It's like, and I
What
just
did they
want to,
do to you?
and not just that, but that would be the even crazier part is that they have all of these parts. So if the concept looks totally
They
different
built
from the
this.
production, right? This car exists. They already have all of these body panels. They already have all of these parts.
The
You know
molds and everything. They could build this.
what I'm saying is it's a cross track. They already built it. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
if they go way off course and this car looks nothing like the one that comes out of the production, then this is just like you're right. This would, in my
Yeah.
eyes, just be something that they slapped together because they just wanted to show off a potential wagon STI. But I have big hopes
And
for
with
this.
the electric version, I would argue that's a bespoke thing. I don't really think anything on that car is ever really going to be coming to fruition or production, minus they learned maybe some things throughout development of it and production of it. They were like, okay, we learned some cool things and development processes and manufacturing processes, what have you. But I'd be the first to tell you, I don't see that coming to the road.
Well, so
I'm
speaking on
sorry.
speaking on the electric car, I want to move into that. I have thoughts. my
Hmm.
my first thought is the first thought that comes to my mind is Hot Wheels, right? This just
Yeah,
looks like a Hot Wheels car with these crazy rims that they put on this thing, which honestly, I don't hate them. I thought I would, but every time I see this picture, I think that, like, for an electric car, it still kinda gives that sporty look, and it reminds me a little bit of, like, the off-road rims kinda, I don't know. But
better than a
anyways,
Cybertruck for fuck's sake.
yeah, well,
I'll say the unpopular opinion. It looks
so
better than a Cybertruck.
yeah, my other thought process is it kinda looks like a Porsche Panamera, like that kinda body style. But
Yeah, I
the
could see that.
front end the front end of it reminds me if a BRZ got extended into, like, a Mach-E front end, kinda, you know?
Yeah, I could see that. It's like the top half's BRZ, the bottom half, you're like, oh, that's weird. You know?
Yeah. I think that it's not a bad looking car, and to be
I
honest,
agree.
this is probably the first electric car that I could see myself buying. I have never in my life ever thought that I would ever own an electric car.
I don't
This
love
is a
the rear
little
end though.
much. This is a
I don't
little
love the
much.
rear end. I gotta go out on a limb and say it. The rear end, actually, I really like the light up Subaru emblem in the middle. That's
Yeah.
classic. I like the center brake light, middle kind of F1 light. I like that. I like the bottom light, actually, the red bar. I like that. Whatever they're doing with the tail lights being out here, bro. What is this? What is this?
You know,
why?
my first thought when I saw these taillights was they are the only thing sticking the furthest off of the back of the car. So, like,
Yeah,
how
yeah,
easy is it to probably break one of those? You know,
yeah,
like,
exactly.
yeah,
Oh my god! And I guarantee you, hypothetically, if they built that thing, they would have been like $1,200 for a tail light.
yeah,
I guess more. It's probably 3,000. It's a whole one piece. It's like, oh my god.
yeah,
That's the problem. When you make your taillights together, conjoined with the middle piece, and it's all one assembly, my inner mechanic is screaming right now. If you didn't know, for anyone
You know,
in the group,
what's funny to me is that it really looks like a Mach-E, but they hid it.
yeah,
They hid the look because
it,
if you look at it, right, this, um, uh like the rocker panel, like this piece that comes off the
yeah,
fender, like this kind of hides the shape of the body as well as this lower lip being on such an aggressive angle. And then they put the wing on it, right? And then they gave it the
hmm
duckbill wing. So, like, if you just cut those pieces out, if you just look at the main
yeah.
body, he really looks like a Mach-E.
And
And
I love the side profile. I have to say, like the only angle that really kills me, like we both agree, is that rear angle. It's like just move those in a little bit, please. Like the rear looks terrible. The front looks good.
you know, the thing about the rear too that I don't like that I think they didn't put too much thought into is that looks like a Toyota rear. Like Toyota
Yeah,
is
well, the
known
flare, yeah,
I'm thinking Toyota's known for that duckbill kind of look on their SUVs, right? Like they have those
yeah,
hard edges in the rear, but probably the most blatant thing is does this not, if you look at the lights, does this not make a T with the light on the, like, the third brake light and then it goes
technically,
across?
yeah,
You know? Like, it's just a very, like, it's subtle, but I think that, like, when I look at this, I see that kinda looks like a Toyota.
yeah. I do
Um,
really like that third brake light, kind of fourth brake light, mounted though. I think that'd be a cool look. Even if
yeah.
they just got rid of the
I
sides.
I actually hate this. I hate the wings. I hate that so
The
much.
wing? Oh, the wing. I think it actually could fit if they just fixed the back end. Again, just fix the back end, and it actually would look okay. Okay, in my
I just,
opinion.
like, it looks okay from this angle because it looks like there's a full wing there, right? Like, this looks okay. but I feel like
Yeah,
when you
well, the only
see it,
argument is they'll be if they fix that back end and smooth it and rounded it out a little bit more, I think it would actually look better. And I guess my takeaway is people would just like anything buy aftermarket wings that would look way better. So
I almost feel like they could have gone with a little bit more of a BRZ rear end on this.
agreed, agreed. I do like the
I
BRZ rear end. I think it looks way better.
think that they could have done. It's just like, who am I, right? Who am I? What do I know?
No,
I'm
you're
not
right.
a.
I
Um,
don't hate the wheels either.
I'm not an
Like weirdly
engineer.
enough, I thought I didn't like them, but then I saw them up close and I was like, they're okay.
I think on an electric car, right? Like these are wheels that you don't see on electric cars. I think that that's what
Yeah.
is so interesting to me. And to be honest, they look like Beyblades. Like I think that it's such a crazy look on an electric car that like no other company is really putting rims like that on their electric vehicles because they're all trying to be um like high end like Tesla makes their bougie like super thick rims that they put on that are supposed to look electric and whatever
But
like
even still, like beyond like the Cybertruck, like I mentioned, like that's where electric cars are trying to go to stand out is, with their either over the top shapes of the cars or maybe it's the wheels. They have to do something to kind of like go, I'm an electric car. Look at
think
me.
I think that the one thing overall I like the most about it is if I didn't know better, I wouldn't know if this was an electric car. I think
I would.
it's got the airflow with the hood scoop and it's got the wing and like I think that if this had no STI or Subaru badging and this car just rolled up, right? I think the lights kind of give it away, but like I think body style wise and rim wise, I would be like, that's a pretty sick sports car. I think that the second I heard the electric noise, I'd be like, well, never mind. But I just think that it's like, man, it's really not a bad looking car. I think that and hey, listen, this is the concept. So, we're not there yet. But maybe it could be awesome. We'll see what comes of it. So I'm a little bit split on it. I'm not really sure where that's gonna go, but I'm interested to see how both of these come out. I think that they're both not bad cars, but something that you and I were talking about before is about Toyota and how Toyota is now teaming up with Mazda. So, I know you had some thoughts on that, so I don't know if you want to talk about that a little.
Well, I thought it was interesting because I questioned like whether or not. So, for anyone who doesn't know, effectively, Toyota officially announced that they'd be partnering with Mazda on the next generation of the Toyota 86. And it would be co-partnered as the Toyota 86 and the Mazda Miata. So it'll be the next generation Miata or MX-5, whatever you want to call it, and slash the Toyota 86. And I was like, well, that's interesting. Wait, what's going to happen to Subaru, in that partnership? And as you point out, there's a good chance, Subaru could continue on with the BRZ. But I also question that I don't know that they sold very many of them. I mean, humbly, as a Subaru only shop, you would assume that we would see, BRZs, and we do, but very, very few. Like
Yeah.
we rarely see those cars. And I think it's maybe a testament to that. Not to say the partnership didn't go, or went poorly, but okay, it was a learning experience for both companies. They both took something from it, and they decided to dissolve that relationship and say, we're going to go our different ways again because it was decided that wasn't mutually beneficial to continue keep going. And at the end of the day, that comes down to a financial stake, and that neither Toyota or Subaru, I think, sold very many of these cars. And so, yeah, not to say it was a disaster, so to speak, but like, no, they both took what they could from the experience and they decided we're going to do something else, and go a
Well,
different direction.
Well, I think too, the one thing that Toyota keeps proving time and time and time again is they're listening. They are listening. They made the Supra, right? They brought it back because people wanted it, but it had a BMW drivetrain. Well, they didn't come in manual. So then Toyota started listening and then they made the Supra in a manual. Oh my God. Not again. Oh God. We're almost there.
Who's
I hate this thing so much, dude.
sorry.
Every time. Okay, we're gonna just lock it there. There we go. Um, they started listening and then
Hmm.
they made the manual and then they started listening some more and now they're talking about putting a Toyota engine back in the Subaru, you know? I think with the 86 they teamed up with a company that didn't wanna listen to what people wanted. Think about how many people were screaming that they wanted a turbo in the BRZ, and they wanted more power, and they wanted more features, and Subaru was like, "We didn't design it for that. We don't wanna do
Buy a
that."
WRX.
But then what was Toyota gonna do? Turn around and tell Subaru how to do a boxer engine? Go and turn away from their design and put a turbo on it? No, I think what
Yeah.
ended up happening is they said, "This isn't what we wanted." It's you know, we did our partnership, we got the car sold, we did the fun stuff with it, but now we're gonna go with a company that is like, "Yeah, let's do it. Let's just make power and make cool cars. It doesn't have to be the perfect driving machine for a mountain NA, you know?"
Then again, Mazda's not doing financially too great. Not like I know the financials, but just I mean, I don't know that Mazda's outselling Ford. I don't know that Mazda's outselling very many people.
Hey, you
Honestly, I
know
would think
what?
that Subaru is maybe selling more than Mazda is.
I see more Mazdas than I see Mitsubishis, and they're still in business, so I'll give them that,
That's
you
that's a
know?
fact.
Yeah.
That's a fact. Yes.
I think, Mazda, for some reason, got their hooks in with a certain, like, community of people, and I feel like they're not doing awful, but they're not doing bad. Like, they do sell a good amount of cars, and I think that, like, I see enough of them on the road that, like, my opinion, at least from what I've seen, is that they have to be selling a decent amount. I mean,
I
but
think they're modern day Saabs.
yeah. But, here
Sorry,
in
not sorry.
here in New Jersey, there's a couple Mazda dealers that are also Hyundai dealers, and they have Hyundai parts departments in the Mazda dealer. Like they've teamed up in certain ways that to me it tells me that maybe they're not doing the best, but I think that they're still making new cars, and I think that people, my sister has only ever owned Mazdas. She had a Mazda Millennia. That was her first car, and ever since then she's stuck with Mazda. She had a 3, then she got the CX3, CX9, whatever, like CX5. um so I don't know. I think that we're going to see Toyota go in such a Dodge facing direction where they're going to start making cool shit because they have the backing and they're not scared to push boundaries, and they're
That's
they're
fair.
trying they're trying to appease to their community and the people that want their products. Whereas like Subaru, I feel like is always so torn. They have the community and dude, look at Boxerfest. One event, 7,000 people. You know, they have those events all over the US. That's only the US, and those are all people that are there for performance based mostly. Even if they're off-road, right? It's off-road performance or it's racing performance or they're there because of, you know, whatever. It's like I think that they're scared to push off the other half of their business, which is people that want SUVs and electric cars and things that are a little bit safer and like, they just are too scared to go fully in the let's go this direction. But
Yeah.
Toyota does that perfectly. Toyota makes the RAV4. They brought back the Land Cruiser by popular demand. Everybody loved them. The Forerunners are still going strong, but then they still have Lexus, and Lexus is still making crazy cars too. I mean,
These are good points.
I don't know. I just like I get excited when Subaru does things like this with these concepts and these new ideas, but it's like the problem is the people behind the decision making. You just always know it's not going to be exactly what you want, and that's the frustrating part. Is that when you
Sure.
tell Toyota what you want, they say, "Hey, even if we don't do it this time, we will. We're going to get to it. Don't you worry." And same thing
Yeah.
with Dodge. Like Dodge made the Hellcat, and people were like, "What if we did more?" And then Dodge was like, "Bet, demon." Like I think it's like that's what the people wanted, and so I think with Subaru, it's like nobody said stop making the STI. Nobody said why are we making the STI.
But maybe the accounting team did.
Exactly, but that's the point where you're like, I don't know. I don't know if that's the problem too. We don't know if them taking it away was a stunt to make people want to buy it when it came back, or we don't know if it
McRib?
was a financial thing. Yeah, like I just, I don't know.
Who
And if they did,
knows? Let us know down in the comments. What do you guys think? Was it a marketing thing, or was it the McRib, or was it, hey, we cried loud enough, so they're going to bring it back?
and
It's one or the other. I mean,
it's not like they weren't still racing either. Look at Project Midnight.
yeah.
It's like why if you're still racing and you're still involved and you still want to be top dog in these races and events, why would you get rid of your flagship and then bring it back? Like, it's like I just don't understand. Like, I don't know.
Well, humbly, it'd be interesting to see how, as we talked about with Mitsubishi never had an Evo
Yeah,
WRX.
that's
They had
true.
an STI or nothing, or you bought a fucking Outlander, which who the fuck wants one of those? Sorry. Sorry if you drive one of those. I'm just going to say in the
But
comments, but
but to be honest, the WRX is how Subaru made their name because the people that that's what people could afford. You know, I
I
could
mean, the
never
STI
afford
was a
an S.
trim level.
But I could never afford an STI, dude. I always got bug eyes because the WRXs were the cheapest thing I could afford. And that was what I built on. And that was where I started in Subaru. And I think that that's true for a lot of people.
Same.
And so in modern day, when cars are $100,000 for a base model F-150, I think that like this is where making two models matters because people can't afford a $50,000 car. Make the WRX STI as your lower end. Make that, whatever. Your WRX will be an STI in spirit, but will be a WRX at $30,000 or whatever, and then make your STI your $50,000 mothership that has all the cool shit and the self-leveling, suspension and the crazy rims and the like the cool diffusers and the wing and like, you know, that should
Yeah.
be the like what everybody aspires to. Like that's what they want to get to. And right now it's like with me, I have a 19 WX that makes 300 horsepower. It cost me 5 grand. Like, why would I ever want to spend an extra 15 for an STI for the seats and whatever else? I got Brembos. I got STI wheels. I make the power. Like, there's nothing about getting to that point that I see it worth the money when I could just keep building on what I got. And so I think
EJ.
it's
Sorry.
true, true, true. But I think that that's part of it is like they have to be different enough to
Yeah.
to just to justify the price.
Well, and to that point, I just tease about why is the STI, and not knocking the EJ. Obviously, I love the EJ, but why is the STI felt like a dinosaur or relic just hanging onto the EJ
Yeah. Yeah.
when you have these new F-24s that are making more horsepower?
Yeah. I really don't know what they're going to be doing as far as this new performance B car when it comes out.
Yeah.
But I just like the one thing that Subaru's really known for and what they're really good at is remembering where they came from and trying to add features that people have liked from older models. You know, they've always stuck with the STI wings. They've always stuck with the Brembo kits. They've always stuck with STI specific rims, the gold and blue paint. You know, there's things that they
DCDD.
do. Yeah, there's things that they do really right, and I think that like I just hope that when they transfer this into a production car, that they do those little things, the little things that the people love. You know,
Yeah.
so I don't know. That's kind of my take on it, but I'm really hoping that we start to see a change in the company structure as a whole. If this starts to do well and these events get bigger and they start seeing that people are willing to pay for what they want, and like people aren't
Come
aren't
on, people.
scared people aren't scared to buy things if they see the value in what they're getting. And I think that if Subaru, right, is making these cars and the price point is reaching somewhere upwards of 35, $40,000 for an STI or more, depending on the model and everything else, and people are scared of that price tag, it means that they're not seeing enough value in the car. They're not seeing the why it's worth it. And so that's when
Good
you have
point.
to take that's when you gotta totally change direction and be like, how do we put the value in this thing? How do we jam pack this car with so much stuff that people love, that they don't care if it's $100,000 car? I just wanted to touch on that because that did come out. That was kind of new news that popped out. And something that's interesting about Subaru is like they don't really own anyone else, and they're not owned by anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
They're one of the few car manufacturers that they don't owe anybody. They exist, right? Like Pontiac basically like owed GM their life for keeping them alive for the time being when they went out of business. You know, like when all of these car manufacturers hit rock bottom and all these bigger ones started buying them up to save them, right? That was kind of like a, oh crap. Subaru held firm and they don't really owe anything to anybody. You know, you look at Toyota. Toyota had Scion, and they got kind of stuck with the bill on that when Scion went out of business, and that was
Well,
totally
that was
wrong.
correction. That was actually a really good, a really smart thing. Actually, I saw some statistics on that, and actually, that was actually a really strategic marketing thing that Toyota figured. They're like, you know what? Toyota's gotten to the point. This is after the '90s and the early 2000s, where Toyota became synonymous with reliability. What happened then shortly afterwards, Toyota's uh, prices for their vehicles went up dramatically, like
Mm,
drastically, to now all of a sudden poor people couldn't afford a Toyota unless they owned a secondhand 98 Toyota Corolla. There you go. Buy one of those for $2,000. You can always buy one of those. So that's how people got introduced to Toyotas. And Toyota thought to themselves, they said, you know what? We were missing a demographic of people that are buying their first cars and they're buying a $2,000 Toyota. I mean, it's great and all. They might, you know, have fond affinity for it because it always never broke down. But eventually it'll break down. They'll get a better job and they'll go, you know what? I'm going to buy something newer and nicer. I'm going to go buy me a Dodge or a Chevy or a Ford. They're not going to think of Toyota. So they thought was if we can get people younger into Toyota now, they'll be future Toyota buyers. And point in case, Scion targeted college kids. Cheap, affordable cars, reliable, safe, that parents could help their kids buy and afford, or kids could buy themselves, working two jobs, going to college themselves, and buy these cars, really low down payments, really low, you know, ownership costs, and cars would never break down. And so they basically had a whole generation that now, fast forward now, guess what? These guys are all buying Tacomas, Tundras, Highlanders, because
yeah.
they're in the overland crowd. I've asked dozens, hundreds, probably of Toyota owners now what their vehicle was before their Highlander, their Sequoia, their Land Cruiser. These are top tier Toyotas. What was your first Toyota? Oh, Scion XA, Scion XB, a little toaster. Love that thing. It got me through college, never broke down. I pretty much sold it for $2,000 less than I paid for it. 5 years later, never lost any money on it. So that's why you drive Toyota. Yep.
Yeah. I
And that's
think
why they
that
abolished it after a couple of generations. They're like, you know what? We did our experiment. We got people into Toyota, and now look at it. They're reaping the benefits.
yeah, and you know what? You know what I was gonna say too, it kinda seems like a smart idea, is that if the problem with Subaru and the STI is that it's killing the overall company, right? These little sports cars they're losing money on, and so it affects the overall numbers, and so they get upset and they say, "Why are we hanging on to this thing if it's so niche and people aren't buying them at this price or, whatever? Why are we losing money on this? Make a Scion. Push all your performance shit over here. It's got its own taxes, it's got its own business, it's doing its own thing." And so now Subaru, right? It looks like it's doing amazing on this, stock market wise and everything else. And people who see what Subaru is doing, like they see the numbers and they see that there's value and they're making money and the company looks good. But where they're losing money is in their little side project, just like what Toyota did. Who cares? That's your flagship. That's the sports car. Put it over here and forget about it because the main company you already know is here. This is what's making you the money.
And you're trying to get more people into that.
Yes. And so you're right. Maybe they should take the WRX and they should just make a Scion and just put it in a different category.
Make the Impreza a base model Scion. Just switch it over. It's no longer a Subaru Impreza. I mean, I hate to say it, but and maybe you say the Subaru WRX is its own thing. It's not an Impreza WRX, because that was always a confusion for Subaru. They had the Subaru Impreza WRX STI. It's an Impreza, but it's also a WRX, but it's the STI version. Wait, what? It's a Subaru Impreza Outback. Wait, what the heck is going on? What are you guys doing? They finally fixed that. Or they're trying to fix that. The Subaru Outback is an Outback. It's not a Subaru Legacy Outback.
Yeah.
It's
Very
a Subaru
confused.
Outback.
Yep.
Subaru Impreza, Subaru Impreza. Subaru
Well,
WRX, Subaru WRX. Stop
uh,
calling it Impreza WRX. That's confusing the
again,
hell out of people.
that's down the road of why are you offering 100 options? Why are you offering 100 cars for 100 different variety of people? And if you just offer 5 cars, people will buy from the 5 that you offer because they like Subaru and they're going to keep coming back. I
And they
think
make 3
that
little niche brands that are your version of Scion that are your other thing.
well, that's the thing too, is that's what I'm saying. Why are you so scared of these cars hurting the company when you could just put them over there and then it doesn't affect the main numbers for the company? You own that, right? Like that's your little side business. Like if you're somebody who owns, if you're the owner of Dunkin', right? And you're like, "Hey, I'm going to start up a small coffee shop in my town." Okay, cool. Go start that up over there. It's it might be owned by Dunkin', but it doesn't affect Dunkin's numbers and what they're doing. I think it's like you got to just separate it and you got to just get, all the
My initial thought is, you know what? Every one of these companies we're talking about is worth millions of dollars, millions. What if a company, like if I just gave you $1 million and I said, I want you to go patent as many names of coffee shops as you can or copyright them. I bet you could copyright a lot of names for coffee shops really freaking quickly.
yeah,
Just saying. So maybe as car manufacturers, why I've always wondered this. Why did Ford rebrand the Maverick that used to be, and I humbly own a 75 Maverick I inherited from my grandfather. Rest in peace. Love that car. 75. Guess what? The new Ford Maverick's a truck. Guess what? The new Dodge Neon's going to be a pickup truck too.
yeah,
The new Toyota Corolla, pickup truck version. Why not? You know why? Because I think these companies have spent millions of dollars on licensing and copyrights for a name.
yeah,
I guarantee you could make up some weird Vivo name for a car. Probably already copyrighted and patented by some company. Bet you. Bet you
Well,
$1
not
million right now that name Vivo, VEVO, probably already patented for some car company. They're not even a car company yet. They're not even on paper yet. They don't have no earnings, no financial backing, nothing. But someone on paper and copyrighted and patented that name for a car or a car company, Vivo. And if you want to cart your company, it's already taken. So come up with something else.
well,
And I always wonder,
the
how
other
many things are we left with?
well, that's the other thing is they have to pay, right, to keep these names patented and shit, and, like, I'm pretty sure that, like, patents are eventually run out. Like, there is, like, a
Well, they do.
like so if you don't reuse it and you don't keep it within the company, right, you're gonna lose it, or
Exactly.
you'll just keep paying for it and never get anything
So
else
Ford,
out of it.
since 1975 up until 2022, whenever they came up the new Maverick, they've been paying from 75 to 2022 for a patent and a licensing on the name Ford Maverick. If they hadn't paid for that for all of those 40 or whatever years, guess what? Toyota came out with a Toyota Maverick. Can't stop
Yep.
them. Nothing you
Yeah.
can do about it.
Yeah.
So how much is that name worth to them now? When they're like, you know what, we're coming out with a new truck. We're in a small little truck. Well, we could create it like, we already used the Ranger. We're trying to come up with something else. Well, look at our list of 22 different names that we've been paying for the last 40 years for. Maverick works. Let's just pick that one.
And
Sounds like a
then
good truck name.
and
People
when
don't
you
even
see
remember the 75 Ford Maverick.
and when you see it work out, like the Bronco, that was a home run. They they're directly competing with Jeep Wranglers, and that's a car that nobody's been able to compete with for forever because what other car
I don't know. They've actually been dropping in prices, apparently, from what I've been hearing. One of
but
my
what I'm
employees
saying
bought one at
is
rock bottom prices. They were trying to give it away because they're like, yeah, these things aren't selling.
but what I'm saying is, you know why they're not selling? Probably because there's another
Everyone
option
wants an
now.
old vintage Bronco. Everyone wants an
Well,
old. Guess what the new Bronco did? It inflated the old vintage Bronco market to now old vintage Broncos are six figures now.
oh my gosh.
The
Yeah,
Jeep,
like the
the Jeep Wagoneer right now, no one's buying them. They're pieces of $100,000 garbage. But guess what's worth more than that? The old Jeep Wagoneers, the old Woodies.
yeah.
Those things are worth well into six figures.
Well, that's my whole point is that nobody's ever had a boxy SUV where the top comes off, for years. Jeep was the only one who kept with that model. And then Bronco comes back and competes in that market. And people are like, wait a second, I can get a boxy SUV with the top that comes off and it's not going to blow up. They're like, perfect. So then everybody was like, we'll just go over here and buy these instead because people are tired of the Jeep problems. And I think that that's been an ongoing problem is like, you know, if nobody's competing with you, you can't just get comfortable and like accept the fact that like we're always going to have Jeep Wrangler buyers because you won't if the cars start blowing up.
That's fair. But you know what my argument is? Look at, and this is another kind of tangent market, but Suron, they make electric dirt bikes. They were the first ones to market with electric dirt bikes. They're this household name. Anyone sees an electric dirt bike, they go, is that a Suron? There's like 22 different companies now making the same thing, if not better. They have better specs, better, faster motors, bigger batteries, everything for half the price. Guess what? People are still buying Surons. You know why? Because they were the household name and they have the biggest aftermarket ecosystem of parts. So you buy one of these new Chinese companies that came out. Yeah, Suron's $5,000 for half the specs that this company's going to sell you a same bike for $2,000 for. Sounds like a no-brainer. Buy the $2,000 bike. When you buy the
Yeah.
$2,000 bike, you go, wait, there's no aftermarket support and parts for this thing. And anything breaks, I buy a new $2,000 bike. Well, I want to buy the $5,000 Suron, and then I'm going to spend $8,000 upgrading it to be as good as that $2,000 bike.
Yeah.
And people are willing to do that. People are willing to do that because it has a lineage. It has a name like Jeep, Suron, Jeep, synonymous with a, look at these Jeep trails. Jeep off, that's the name, Jeep Trail.
Yeah.
It's not off-road trail, it's Jeep Trail. It's where Jeeps go. Yep. Unfortunately, They have the name brand. And that's why, like you said, even though they can sell subpar stuff and rest on their laurels, Suron, since their introduction, has never upgraded anything. Same battery, same motor, same everything since they first came out 10 years ago, which is a lifetime ago for technology. Now people are doing, instead of 72 volts, they're doing 140 volts. Now instead of a 3,000 watt motor, they're doing a 8,000 watt motor for $2,000 instead of $5,000 from Suron. Guess what still sells more times than $2,000? Suron for $5,000. And then people will spend happily $8,000 more dollars to make it as good as a $2,000 bike. Because when that $2,000 bike breaks, there's no support and no ecosystem.
True.
That's what we're facing with, look at the Bronco. Do they have the same parts catalog that Jeeps do? Nowhere close.
Nope.
Not even close. Give them 10 years from now, and they still won't have caught up to Jeep. Jeep has 20,000 companies that are making Jeep parts, aftermarket. Ford Bronco has, 200? Cool.
Yeah.
For them to get to 20,000, in 10 years, they'll be at 10,000. Still 10,000 behind Jeep. And Jeep, in the next 10 years, will have grown another 10,000 more suppliers for aftermarket parts because there's a cult following. How do you build that cult following?
Part of the issue with
That's
the
the $1 million
Jeeps
question.
is that Jeeps, I feel like their entire customer base has changed. It's a lot of college kids. It's a lot of people that they just buy it for the aesthetic of owning a Jeep Wrangler.
Adventure.
Like,
look at me.
Yeah, and it's like that's kind of what's also burning them is that people that used to buy Jeeps used to work on them. And so when they had problems, they didn't get all these complaints and stuff. I'm sure they did, but you know what I mean? Like the stuff is fixable. But now you got
Look
college
at
kids
Toyota though. They're selling Tacomas and Forerunners to every overlander who just wants to parking lot princess it and never actually go anywhere off-road other than a hard-packed dirt trail that a Corolla could drive on. But they're overlanding. They're getting out there in the unknown. And look at how much I spent $100,000 on my Forerunner in roof rack and accessory.
Yeah, my point was just that like these Jeep Wranglers are garbage. So you got these young college kids and stuff that are buying these cars and they're buying it for the rubber duckies and the wave and the experience and then they don't make it to college or they break down at college or every time that they come home it's in the mechanic shop or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I feel like people aren't stupid and they're starting to learn that like these aren't the Jeeps that they used to be. And Jeep even realizes that. And that again, that's where I feel like getting lazy is bad because they're getting lazy with the designs. They're getting lazy with like, dude, the oil filter housing leaks on or the oil cooler leaks on every single one of these cars. And you have to rip the whole intake manifold and everything else off the top of the engine to get to it and replace it. And it's like,
you know what Jeep did? They were smart. They said, you know what? We're going to double down. Our parent company's Dodge. And you know what? We're going to produce a Hellcat in a Jeep Wrangler that can do 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. There you go, everybody. And they're selling the shit out of those things. They're selling the shit out of those Jeep Grand Cherokees and Wranglers or whatever with Hellcat engines in them. Because it's stupid. It's stupid. Who wouldn't want a $30,000 car that could do 0 to 60 in 3 seconds?
Is that the trail off?
Hell yeah. I don't know. But like these things, I would say Dodge, Jeep, all these companies, like, they're selling horsepower for pennies on the dollar. Pennies on the dollar. You can go 0 to 60 in 3 seconds for $30,000. That is unheard of. There's no spectrum of economy scale where you could have built a car that was 900 horsepower for $30,000. But yet you can buy a Dodge off the showroom floor that can do that.
I mean, that's to bring
that's another problem. That's why Subaru's losing too. Why not just buy a Charger or a Hellcat or a Demon for a lot less money than an STI and go 5 times as fast and go to one of these street takeovers, which, by the way, yeah.
Well, that's why that to bring it full circle, you know, I think that's where I was kind of like, you know what, we really should be looking at how we can elevate the STI. because it's been the same forever. It's everybody knows what they're getting. And so if they came out, right, at this Tokyo Auto Show and they brought this car out and everybody's like, "Ah, it's a Crosstrek body that's lowered, at least they're bringing the STI back or whatever." But then they were like, "Oh, it has a flat 6 twin turbo in it. This thing makes
Love it.
550." You know,
Love
like
it.
the place would have exploded. Like
Hmm.
literally people wouldn't even know what to do with themselves because it's such a wild concept. And and I feel like that's what they need to do. They really need to just shock everybody. Shock factor. Build something freaking cool. Like even if you only do it for 2, 3 years, even if it's a limited run, just make them, you know? Get the concept out there, build something cool. The WRX exists. People will buy the WRX. I see normal people driving them to work now. They've made it into a normal everyday sedan. I think that,
Yeah.
you know, if you're gonna make an STI, go for the moon. Go all the way. Don't hold back so that people who buy WRXs are gonna want to buy STIs. Fuck that. I'm over that. Just send it. Send it to the fucking moon.
Yeah.
Go to super level. Why is the STI? I'm about to rant again. Why is the STI competing with Honda Civics when it should be competing with Supras? That's my problem. My problem with Subaru is
Good
that
point.
why
Valid
are
point.
they battling in the market that they shouldn't be battling in? You know,
Sure.
they built Project Midnight. Do you think Honda Civics are out there building Project Midnights? No. Why are you competing with them? Stop it. Go send that STI to the fucking moon and make it
Do your
something.
own thing.
Make it crazy. Who cares? Make it awesome. Do something. Like that's what I'm saying. If you want to keep the WRX, cool. Everybody likes a turbo all-wheel drive sedan that they can drive in the wintertime. It's a little sporty. Cool. If you're gonna bring the STI back, just fucking send it. Go all the way. We could all be better off sleeping in our beds at night knowing that is gonna be out there. So I don't know. I think I'm just gonna end it there where I just gotta say there's so much more they could do, and it would blow everyone's socks off. People would buy them. They would be, because people like niche things. If Subaru said, "Hey, we're gonna make 1,000 of these specialty STIs. They're gonna be flat sixes with twin turbos." Do you think there would be any left? Do you think that every single pre-order would not be fulfilled? No, they would be sold out instantly. They wouldn't be able to make enough of that car. And it doesn't matter if that car is 50 grand. People would be like, yeah, do I want a 550 horsepower twin turbo flat six Subaru STI or do I want a
Yes.
Toyota Supra? The Supras have been BMW drivetrains and all-wheel drive or, not all-wheel drive, automatic and, like if you're not a Toyota guy and you want something that competes in that class, there you go.
Symmetrical all-wheel drive will always win in the winter.
I'll tell you, I have friends that drive Supras, the newer ones.
Hmm.
And when you pull up in a Subaru, even an STI, it's not the same. You don't feel it. You could tell when you pull up and you're on the same level as someone else, or you feel like you're in the same class as them. It doesn't feel that way anymore. It feels like Supras have shot to the moon and Subarus are battling with Corollas and Hondas. And it's like, there's just no need for it. And I don't know if because Supra teamed up with BMW, if that's what kind of elevated them, but I think that even if they go back to a Toyota drivetrain and they make them fast and dude, look at the body style on those things. They crushed it. They crushed the look of them. They made them sick. And I think
Yeah.
that if Subaru did the same thing and they came out with a badass car that just fucking blew everybody's doors off, that would be it. It would be the end of the show. It would be, yep, we're expecting you to make this car for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, we'll see what happens. I think that everybody's,
Yeah,
overly excited that it's just back and they're back into making these cars, and that's the
we're holding our
exciting part,
breath.
but yeah. But, I will say, if this car comes out and they do make it and it is cool, I'll probably get one. I'm kind of on the fence right now looking at the concept, but I think I wanna see the full picture come together. I wanna see the price tag, I wanna see the options, and I think we'll just kinda see what happens, but who knows? I mean, do you think they'll make a WRX version?
Mm, it's a good
I think
question.
I think they're gonna keep making the WRX as a sedan, and then you know how when they in 2014 they had the sedan and they had the wagon? I think that
Yeah.
they're gonna do it like that, except they're not gonna have 2 versions of each. It's just gonna be WRX's sedan, STI's wagon, you know?
Hmm. That's an interesting thought. Could be. I mean, who knows? I mean, at the end of the day, we have our industry projections, based on statistics and histories of things and generally how companies tend to do things. But at the end of the day, time will tell. We'll see what Toyota actually and Subaru actually do, respectively, as companies as they diverge, and ultimately where Subaru goes with this STI thing is going to be really up to, I think, what people's responses are. And that's one of my initial points, was that we have to be supportive. That's not to say if you don't like it, truthfully, and you think they could do something, make your voice heard to a point. But at the same time, I think being overly critical and just jumping on the bandwagon, as they say, I think is overly detrimental, I guess, to simply put it, to the company as a whole. And I think that we need to be supportive as enthusiasts of Subaru, and not to say we have to support everything they do, because hey, when they do something wrong, we should call them out to a point. But at the same time, we need to be very, very concise on that. If we're just going to be the picky kid eater, it's like, no, I don't want that. I don't want that. I don't want that. Well, you have to eat something at a certain point,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that's what we have to take for granted, that we have to kind of take something from the main manufacturers and run with it. Because at the end of the day, we all like to modify our cars. It's one of the most unique parts about, I think, a lot of us individuals as enthusiasts. And okay, if Subaru hypothetically made the perfect car that was never needed to be modified, then would that detract from it, in some capacity? I think that would.
Well,
They have to leave a little on the table.
maybe you and I next episode, maybe we'll go through and we'll look at some concepts that came out and what they turned into, and maybe we'll try to get a picture together of what this STI is going to look like. I think that looking at some past concepts and how they turned out might give us some insight into that. So, um, but anyways, we appreciate everybody sticking with us. We have had a great
Yes,
time, and
always.
I got to get back to
Enjoy
baby
boost
care.
season.
Boost season is live, so
Yes.
we will catch you guys on the next one.